Hello everyone, this is Mr.arorora, and today's episode we are continuing on our how to design a D&D miniature from Battle Maze 40 million, a Chaplin miniature. So, let's get to it. The last episode we created our basic silhouette and basic character. Afterwards, we worked on our mesh, and now we are modifying our mesh and making sure that it is detailed and well suited for our needs. Alright, so last episode we created our basic silhouette and basic character. Now we are giving it more characteristics and more details. Like we spoke the last time, we make sure that our mesh is well proportioned and well aligned. So this is a continuation of what we started doing. From this point on, I'm not going to explain every single step, and instead I'm going to let you watch what I do during these tutorials, because what I do is at this point is repetition and making sure that everything is fitting in my own imagination and my own frame of thought, because I already created our silhouette and it is looking like our reference. However, I don't want an exact copy of the reference. Instead, I want to create my own character. So, as you can see, like the last time I said, we are creating a bastion of morality, anger, hate, and everything with that. So, we are amplifying that and making sure it is pristine. Because when I put this miniature in the table, I want to be, I want to feel proud. I want to feel that I have made this and I am proud of what I have created and it looks awesome. So keep that in mind. You're your own boss and you're creating something that you want and love. That's the most important part. We need to love our creation. Or let our creation love us, I guess. So, in the Grim Darkness of 41st Millennium, there is a company called James Workshop, and they are strictly against these kind of videos and stuff because, of course, they would be. They are owner of Battle Maze 40 million universe, and they earn money from creating miniatures, and the whole business are around that. The animations, the videos, films, lore, books, everything is around building miniatures. So I don't want to get in trouble with any James. So let's keep that in mind. However, this is my own custom design, and I didn't take any literal models from James W. So I hope I'm off the hook. Now, what we created well, let me put it this way. What I am creating is a character for my RPG game that I play with my friends. So, in that story, I'm a chaplain of Astartes, which is super soldiers of space. Let's put it that way. And these soldiers are strictly selected from populace around the universe. Then they are trained, they're upgraded via getting their organs extra, they're getting extra organs, extra abilities, and so on and so on. However, because of that, they lose most of their humanity and their character and soul. But even then, they are still human, and their only duty is making sure humanity is still alive and fighting against the forces of evil. Don't get me wrong, these guys aren't angels or anything. These are murder machines. And I love murder machines, so I'm creating my own little murder machine. And this fella is born around 34th millennium. However, because of their warp drives malfunctioning, my teammates and I came out of lighter than speed travel approximately 7 years later than what we should have. Because of that, we are relics of a past bygone days. Like, the reason I'm alive, all the people I know, and everyone else is dead. It doesn't matter. I have a duty, and my duty is serving the Imperium, which I grasp this reality with firm grip, put on my helmet, and march on to war. It doesn't matter. So, because of that, I made sure to give my character some outdated armor pieces. For example, last episode I mentioned having external cabling instead of internal, um, bolted armor pieces, and so on and so on. However, I take liberty of giving my character angelic wings because my character is descendant from Blood Angels chapter, which is, if you ask what is Blood Angels, well, there are millions and millions of space warriors, and around 1,000 of them form a chapter. Like, every space marine has their own chapter and their lore, history, characteristic, education, so on and so on. Mine comes from Blood Angels chapter, and their first commander was a mutated, um, a messiah kind of figure, and because of that, they take. Oh yeah, the messiah figure had angelic wings, so because of that, they want to look like their first commander and honor their honor his presence and character. They adorn their armors with skulls and symbols of from their commander. I'm just roughly explaining the lore because the whole lore explaining it would take days. So that's all you need to know about this character. You're going to say, Mr.arorora, you're not explaining how we need to do anything here. You're just telling us some lore about some universe that we don't care. And to that, sure, why not? However, the reason I'm explaining lore because I want to share my experience with you all, and the second thing is, after this point on, I don't need to speak that much. I already explained what I'm doing, so from now on, it's just detailing and making sure everything is well placed. In later episodes, there are going to be explanations of why I do some of these things. Other than that, we are just letting ourselves enjoy the modeling session. So, because of modeling taking lots of time and patience, there is no need for explaining every single detail and wasting both of our times. However, we should always be careful of our edge flows and our mesh. So, what I'm trying to do is create a vase-like shape for the Astartes leg. However, I try to create a pillar-like resemblance here, but I'm failing in it. And because of the style of the model, it will look too overcumbering. So I let go of that notion, and instead of, I opted to leave that place a little bit barren. Because sometimes less is better, other than creating an overly complicated character. So, if I wanted to create a character resembling a structure or church, a Gothic style church, if I say so, we need to first design the character from the bottom to top, instead of creating a model straight out of our imagination and some resemblance from references. So because of that, we didn't plan through whole structure, so we need to go with the flow instead of against the flow. Otherwise, we need to recreate the whole model, and that is not what we are doing here. We are creating a character out of references that we enjoy. So let's keep that in mind. Remember, when you're creating a character from zero, if you want to create an inspired character, this is a good way to go. However, if you want to create a perfect character in your what you had in mind, first we need to draw that, design that, and speak about that before we can start modeling the character. Because we need to make sure that some parts fits together, the design is, how can I say it, consistent instead of mix mash of other things. So as you can see in this character, most of the things are mismatched because I'm trying to find balance. At the same time, I'm trying to make sure that this character is a representation of my own character. However, because of that, we need to sometimes let go of some details and some parts. Also, make sure to file folders and always save your files. While modeling in Blender and any kind of application, it takes a lot of computing power, so always remember this. The files you're working on does not give you any insurance that it will not crash. The file will crash. Instead of getting angry or sad, save your files multiple times. Stop what you're doing and make sure that you have saved your file. Or you're going to lose your progression, but there's a little bit of a chance to save your file. When you go to your file, left top corner, click on the file icon, the Word file. It's going to open up a window, go down, recover. It will give you two choices: autosave, open the last save, or close file. Or the second choice, it will show you the autosaves the Blender takes. You can choose depending on your time, name of the project, and see if you are managed to save your file or not. That's a great hack, by the way, because nobody will tell you that. However, that's a huge lifesaver. Trust me. Like, there's many times that I save files because of that, and save projects, and lots of headaches and time because of that simple fact. But instead of relying on that, always save your file. By the way, you don't always need to create your parts all descended from the same part. Like, for example, these armor pieces. They are not connected to the main leg. Or thigh? It's whatever the hell it's called. Because if I created that armor pieces from the backside of the leg or the calf part, I would have to rely on the geometry and the shape of the leg, the whole armor. However, I give it subdivision modifiers and other modifiers. Because of that, I am working around it because I don't need to connect every single piece. Keep this in mind. What you're working on is dependent on the project you're having. For example, this project is going to be only for miniature making. So, not everything needs to be the same. Let me say it this way. Not every single part needs to be coherent and joined together. And even with the other projects you have, sometimes you don't even need that. But if you're going to sculpt, for example, something like this, you better need to have everything combined instead of having single pieces and different pieces all around. Like when you're choosing a part, it takes a lot of time when you're choosing every single part, but choosing a single object is way simpler and less time consuming sometimes. Oh, you're going to say, Mr. Aurora, but why are we wasting time with choosing parts? Trust me, you will. Trust me. You will choose lots of parts because some models you will encounter will have thousands and thousands of individual pieces, and you're going to need to keep in check of those. Need to make sure everything is fitting together, not colliding with each other. So depending on your project, prepare yourself for what you need to do beforehand. At this kind of project, you're much more free to do what you want. So keep that in mind. Also make sure when you're modeling something like a miniature, it is going to, for example, this character is going to be almost 4 centimeters. Keep that in mind. A normal miniature doesn't have lots of details, indicate details, because it's not going to show up. It will get eaten by other details or bigger details because these things kind of would be shown in renders, animations, but in tabletop, you're not even going to see your character's face most of the time. So keep that in mind, or you're going to have lots of disappointing moments with yourself. But other than that, rest is history. You're free to do what you want, you're free to do whatever you like, long as it serves a purpose. And the purpose is your own choosing. This model is a D&D miniature, so it serves its purpose. So what you're seeing here is I open the magnetic tab and make sure that every single sphere I planted there always aligns with the faces of that leg, or closest face it is to it. Instead of aligning every single sphere, I opted to do that. Also, turn that setting off when you're done with it, because when you open the editing tool, you're going to see that. It's going to stretch the whole vertices and try to slap it on the next face. Like, it's a very versatile tool, but if you forget what you're doing with it, it will cause lots of problems. Always make sure of that. So you're going to ask, what are those dots' purpose? So there are armor stats. When the Horus Heresy happened in 41st Battle Maze 40 million, distribution of armor and armor plates wasn't equal. And after some time, creating new armor during a huge civil war became so hard. Instead of creating new armor, they relied on using their old armors bolted to random parts or other stuff, other armor pieces. At least it's better than no protection. And I want this character to carry that set reality or desperate measure, because this is a Chaplin and I want to make sure that this character is born from desperation, not because of need, but because of desperation. Chaplins are beautiful characters, and depending on your chapter, their whole characteristic and roles change drastically. For example, for a Blood Angel Chaplin, its duty is to kill their brothers. And their brothers would be people they're fighting with, their allies. They call their their they call everyone in their own chapter brother, because the gene grafts they get and modifications are from the same person, and in a sense they are all related because of that, because they carry same genes and same blood. Also, they fight side by side until the very end. That would be a bitter end or a beautiful end as well. But in those moments, blood angels have a curse, and they fall into depravity because of their nature, and in their nature they are somewhat of a vampires, and that fact is a very shunned fact and very kept kept hidden almost most of the time from anybody else, from humans to commanders or other chapters. And because of that, they are prone to attacking their own enemies if their blood loss is taking a hold of them. Or something worse. There is also another kind of psychological problem blood angels have, which is they fall into a murderous rage. They see everybody as traitors because during the Civil War, their primarch, their commander, their father was betrayed by his own brother and was killed without mercy and violated. What I mean is the corpse of their primarch Sanguinius was desecrated and destroyed, and because of his death it awakened a curse on his sons, and this is called Black Rage. And because of that, they see, when this curse is awakened, they see everybody else as the person who betrayed them, and their only goal is to kill that person or people. And they think they are Sanguinius himself. They are chapter master. They are primarch, not chapter master. And they try to kill and attack everyone in sight. And this is an uncontrollable urge. And this is a curse that when this curse activated, there is no coming back from it. So the grim purpose of chaplains in this chapter is to kill those brothers who have fallen, to make sure that their secret is kept hidden and they don't attack anybody else, because this curse doesn't have any coming back from it. When you fall, you fall, and after that point, whatever you do, you will hurt people you care about and people you try to protect, people you try to save. So their grim purpose is to make sure their legacy is not stained by this curse, and relieve them of their mission, and making sure they rest as heroes, not as monsters, even in war. There are still glimpses of humanity in them. And because of that, they must keep on to make sure one day there will be kids without war. Not raising to become monsters, but waking up to sunrises, to go out and play instead of shivering and hiding in darkness, not starving alone, or not witnessing their parents being murdered mercilessly and being powerless to it. Instead, they fight for a future, to make sure no other kid goes through the nightmare they have been through, making sure everybody else in that kingdom has a home and a bed that they can sleep without fear of not seeing tomorrow. You think I'm talking about a silly game? I wish that. But in today's episode, we talk about our own sad reality. We tend to like things that are not real. But this is real. There are kids starving to death. There are kids alone without no one. Not even kids. They are adults who have been hurt. Or people who have been left alone. That's the reality we live in. And that is the reason many people like Warhammer. Because this is a reflection of our own reality. Not an exact reality, but a fractured reflection of that. And only way to fix that is standing up against every injustice. Instead, fighting with each other, gifting each other art, giving each other purpose, or giving each other safety. So, instead of wasting my energy and passion on hurting people instead of that, let's put down our hands and pick up a pen instead of letting our rage, anger, or any emotion that will hurt us or people we love. Let's put those emotions on papers. Writing, art, painting, character design, story writing. This is a great way to calm your own emotions, getting to know yourself. This looks like a simple joke or, oh, it's easy. We don't need to waste time by creating something like this. What's the purpose of behind that? No. The purpose behind these kind of things are expressing our emotions ourselves. Well, what we have been through, who we are, all of those things tell stuffs about you, what you do, what you draw, what you say. And no great artist is born in just a day. It will take time. It will take lots of time. Months, years, decades. But every single mile you cross is a mile worth dying for or worth living for. Let's say it like that instead of dying. Be proud of yourself for creating so many beautiful things. Even if you don't think it's beautiful, in many people's hearts, what you have achieved is beautiful. So, remember, guys, stay safe and stay awesome. This was Mr. Aurora. Bye.